2 days in a row, I'm early.
Yeah, you're ahead of the game. I just turned on the YouTube,
I saw that.
and now I'm admitting a bunch of people that are joining. I'm guessing the argument's still going on at home, so you had to stay at the office?
I have no idea what you're talking about now. We're streaming on YouTube. No, there's no such argument going on.
Maybe I'll do the view of me versus my keyboard. It's a little bright in my office right now, though. Okay. Oh, that's worse.
That evening sun in those offices can be really difficult from that angle.
I know, so I tried turning off my light and it really didn't actually improve it, so.
Oh, it's definitely better than your first option or the middle option.
Yeah. The cleaning crew was vacuuming not too long ago, so at least that background noise is gone.
Are we expecting any changes in the online versus in-person meeting schedule with the recent changes from the CDC?
It's gonna there will be no changes till at least August. It is my understanding, we will follow the model I've adopted by council, and there is some logistics with where they're gonna have it once it's in person, because they still want to allow for social distancing and stuff. So as of right now, it'll be the same. Zoom each month, at least for the next 2 months. And I will let everyone know once I have more clarity. We may be moving the in-person meetings to the community room at the police station because it's larger and allows for greater separation. But there is also the possibility or the desire by council and by community development, who uses the service, to allow members of the public to still attend the meeting through Zoom. So we would need TVs and cameras and whatnot. So we need to sort all that out.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't sort it out, so.
Greater minds.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Bellis emailed and said he is dealing with a family matter and won't be able to join us this evening. So the board members who will be arriving are here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. As it is 7 o'clock, I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Jeff Clapper.
Present.
Chris Clevenger Morris.
Present.
Michael Bruder.
Present.
Amanda Edwards.
Present.
And Nick Bellis.
Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Bellis?
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Bellis.
Moved by Ms. Edwards. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Clapper. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Go ahead and read the preamble. The Planning Commission operates in accordance with the provisions of the Kent City Charter, Kent Zoning Code, and subdivision regulations, all of which establish the powers and duties of the Commission. Members of the Planning Commission are appointed by City Council and serve without compensation. Certain cases, such as conditional zoning certificates, special zoning permits, overlay district projects, and zoning amendment, require public hearings before the Planning Commission. During the public hearing, any person wishing to address their concerns to the Commission will be provided the opportunity. Once the public hearing is closed, it shall be the discretion of the chair whether to allow any additional public comment. Cases such as site plan reviews and subdivision projects do not require a public hearing. However, the chair will allow public comment on each case as it is taken on the agenda. In each instance where the commission receives public comments or conducts a public hearing, those persons wishing to address their concerns to the commission will be required to do so under oath or positive affirmation. The oath or affirmation shall be administered to all who wish to speak at the beginning of the planning commission meeting. Once a decision has been made by the planning commission on a case, the case is closed for the commission as there is no provision to reopen a case. With the exception of cases falling under the subdivision code, any decision of the planning commission may be appealed to the city's board of zoning appeals in accordance with chapter 1109 of the zoning code. Anyone interested in appealing the decision of the planning commission is advised to seek private legal counsel. Mr. Fink, could you please administer the oath?
If anyone who's going to be testifying in front of the planning commission, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give before the planning commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. First on the agenda this evening, well, I believe we haven't received any official correspondence. Is that correct, Mr. Sarr?
That is correct.
Right. And for the benefit of the commissioners, you should have received an email earlier this afternoon with some updates from Mr. Sarr regarding, I believe, the parking analysis and photometric plans for this evening. Can everyone confirm that they received those, please?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So moving on to new business, first on the agenda is PC 21-008, Kent City Schools, located at 1400 North Manaway Street. The applicant is requesting a conditional zoning certificate and site plan review and approval to construct a new building, a building addition, and a parking lot expansion. The subject property is zoned R2, medium density residential zoning district. What would staff like to present?
Thank you, sir. The property is surrounded by residential uses to the west, south, and east, by industrial research uses to the north. In addition, there is an open recreation space to the east. As Mr. Clevenger Morris mentioned, the applicant is proposing to construct a new gymnasium attached to the north side of the high school, to construct a new field house to the south end of the athletic stadium, and to substantially restructure the parking and drop-off lanes for all around the high school. In an R2 district, public and parochial schools are conditionally permitted per section 1131.02.b and are subject to section 1171.01 subsections 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 11, which I will review now. Subsection 1, all structures and activity areas shall be located at least 100 feet from all property lines. 2, loudspeakers which cause a hazard or annoyance shall not be permitted. 3, all points of vehicular entrance or exit shall be located no closer than 200 feet from the intersection of two major thoroughfares, or no closer than 100 feet from the intersection of a major thoroughfare and a local or collector thoroughfare. Number 5, no lighting shall constitute a nuisance or in any way impair safe movement of traffic on any street or highway. No lighting shall shine directly on adjacent properties. Item 6, elementary school structures shall be located on a collector thoroughfare. Item number 11, such uses shall be properly landscaped and harmonious with the surrounding residential uses. It should be noted that the school already holds a conditional zoning certificate for this use and is really seeking an expansion of that certificate. As mentioned, extensive changes to the on-site parking and traffic circulation plan are proposed. The current plan included, let's just say the current plan up until this afternoon included parking along the front of the bus drive. My understanding is that the plan has been revised and that front yard parking moved, but the plan that you have still shows it. So just take that under consideration. Currently, these numbers quoted in this now are incorrect as of the new numbers submitted this afternoon. So I believe there's somewhere in the range of 485 parking spaces on site, and then substantially more taken into account additional parking at the Stanton Middle School and at the Davie facility to the north, and also some grass parking. I will let the applicant speak more in detail about all those numbers, but they have addressed our concerns with that matter, so they can more thoroughly go over that when they get to their presentation. For the utilities, both new water and sanitary sewer lines are proposed. Engineering has begun the review of these. They look to be reasonable, but there will be more comments once technical review is undertaken. Stormwater, there is a substantial new stormwater collection system to be installed. And again, this is something that engineering is looking at. And at this point, we believe it will work, but we've requested more data, and we'll go over that in greater detail as we get into technical review. There is no sign package proposed at this time. We do recommend that the applicant put together a comprehensive sign package for review by the Planning Commission. There will be not a lot of landscaping changes. In fact, no landscaping changes, and the dumpster will remain in the same location. There is a substantial new lighting plan that has been proposed, and one of the new pieces of material that you received this afternoon was an updated photometric plan that they've tinkered with to get the lighting bleed across the property lines to be substantially less than the original plan that they had submitted. So they can speak to that matter more when they do their presentation. The Architectural Review Board did review this on May the 4th and made a recommendation to accept the design with the added condition of installing windows on the south side of the field house. No variances have been required, and that's everything that we have.
Tim, can you clarify why there weren't windows actually originally included on that south side of the field house for the Planning Commission members?
Well, it was my understanding that most of the field house constitutes restrooms and locker rooms, and that the absence of the windows was to provide privacy for those installations.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. For applicant presentation, please state your name and address for the record. You may begin.
Superintendent Joseph, do you want to go first? Or?
Thanks, Brad. George Joseph, Superintendent, Kent City Schools, 321 North DePeyster Street.
Brad Geller with Then Design, 470 River Street, Willoughby, Ohio.
I'd like to start, unless you needed something else. No? Mr. Starr, thank you for the detailed explanation. And I love the fact that you said we tinkered. I wish I felt that it was tinkering. Lots of planning went into this, but I did get a chuckle out of that. Thank you. I wanted to, first of all, thank the Planning Commission for looking at these plans. And again, we are more than willing to work with the commission to work on anything that's needed. I want to reiterate the parking and Roosevelt Drive piece so that you understand that we had a survey done, and currently the student parking, visitor parking is separated from the school at Roosevelt by Roosevelt Drive. And during the morning and during after school, it is an accident waiting to happen. The parking should not have been ever planned separate, dividing the parking from the school with a major driveway where parents, students from two schools, Stanton Middle School and Roosevelt High School, are going back and forth. And then I learned that even surrounding neighbors from a corporation I will not mention also use that driveway to make easy access to their entrance and exit. And again, the purpose of this is all about safety. We want the parking next to the building with visitor parking so that Roosevelt Drive is rerouted around the outside of that parking. And the primary goal is to make it safer. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to our architect from TDA, Brad.
And hi, Bill Dunnigan is with us. He's a civil engineer from Greenland, in case you have some technical questions that I cannot answer. Let's see if I can share my screen. Is that all right? And let me know when you can see it.
You're good.
Okay. And I got my cursor over there. There we go. So I think you're all very familiar with the site. The superintendent was just mentioning here is Roosevelt Drive on the left that comes through and bifurcates student and visitor parking. So here's student and visitor parking, and it splits, the road splits, and people do kind of zoom through here. So the goal of this, one of the goals of this plan was to get this road on the other side of this parking and getting the parking closer to the school. And also, you can see it was not done in, I would say, the most artistic manner. So here's the front drive. You'll see two plans, one with an additional lane of parking. That was what was originally submitted. That was really at the urging of the safety forces of Kent because of people stopping along this lane and blocking the fire lane. But we understand based on your zoning that front street parking is not allowed. So we are open to eliminating that parking or going back for a variance at a later time if it is seemed appropriate. So this is the parking scheme that was originally presented with this parking here. That was in the plan that was just submitted was removed. There is a bus drop off along here that will remain. And then the buses actually leave like this way. So they get a clean in and out. And then the car traffic comes in this way and the parent drop off is along here. And then they can either go onto Hudson Road if that's the way they're going or back out to Mantua. So this is the revised plan showing preserving the front yard and not having any additional parking along here. But with Roosevelt Drive to the south and the staff and visitor parking and student parking, not having to cross Roosevelt to get to the front door. As part of this, you probably know we're doing secure entrances at all the schools. So everyone will come in here and either be a student and with their identification can get in, a card key, or they need to go through what's called a Raptor system and be admitted to the school. There's a new gym addition on the north side of the building. This provides a competition gym for the school, along with locker rooms, varsity locker rooms, a multi-purpose room, wrestling room for the district, and then convenient parking in the back, and essentially an access road all the way around for the fire department access. And we spoke with the fire department. They want to be able to bring an ambulance up to this door. So we extended the fire lane down to this point. And we can revisit this at any detail you want. The parking I mentioned at so in the event of a stadium game, there are 4,030 seats in the stadium. At the 1-4 ratio, 1,095 parking spaces are required. So the district has been very good about working on arrangements for events that are sold out. So at Stanton, there are 179 spaces. At Roosevelt, if we don't have the 26 spaces at that fire loop, there are 549. At the grass parking lot just south of the field house, there are 150 spaces. So that's 699 here. And then they're having an arrangement with Davey Tree to use their lots during 12 events which was more than the number of football events a year. So that might include graduation and so forth. So that brings them up to 1,327 parking spaces for events where there are quite a few people. So the district has worked out, I think, a very good parking plan for special events. Normal days, they don't use all this parking. So this just gives you a view around the north side of the building. The natatorium's over here. This is the existing gym. This is where the new locker rooms and gym are going. This is the other side of the building, which is sort of a service area now. These sheds will be removed and the new gym will come out here. So that's a view from southwest, looking southwest, the new entrance to the gym where the ticket entrance, gym, and their concessions and so forth in here, and then the new gym. And then looking from the other side, more of the service side, this is that door that the fire department will back up to and an ambulance can come to. And then the flat elevations. There was quite a bit of material presented to the Architecture Review Board and the Building Department for signage, but we can come back with a detailed review if that's your pleasure. So I think that's pretty much it for the high school addition and site plan. The next would be the field house. So should I go on to the field house or questions on this portion?
I believe the field house is part of PC 21-008, correct, Mr. Sarr?
That is correct.
So this is the continuation of Roosevelt Drive here. The Stanton track and bleachers are here. This is the existing Roosevelt Stadium, and the existing bleachers are here. This is the new pavement and field house. So that's essentially the site plan. So the field house, this is the present entry gates. The field house will go along this area here. Or right here. You can see it's quite a distance back from the Roosevelt Drive, so it's not particularly, it's not a huge prominent feature. There's the Stanton stands that I mentioned. And this grass lot is where the temporary parking is, if you've been to a game. So this is looking at the north elevation, the field, new entry piers, a concessions area, spirit shop, public toilets for the concession area, varsity locker rooms and team locker rooms, and really coach's office and training rooms on this side. So you can see all along the south side is essentially lockers and plumbing. And then we have some very high windows into the locker here just for light. And then there are windows into the training room and the coach's office so they can look out onto the field from this side. And there are windows at the ticket booth over on this side, on the south side here. And some clear story windows here, actually. So these are the elevations. And that's it for that project. So we're open to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gellert. At this time, do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant or staff?
I do real quick. Just going back to the early on in the presentation about the new student parking lot. Do you have numbers on parking spaces, new versus old?
Yes, and Bill, maybe you can help out quickly with that.
At this point, I did not bring the old number of parking spaces. But again, from the standpoint of the parking spaces being provided at the high school itself, in combination with the ADA, we're talking about 485. There's additional parking spaces at the stadium, and then the parking in the grass, with the totals of those on-site parking spaces of 699. And then again, with the additional off-site parking comes to a total of 1327. I will be more than happy to get back to you, Mr. Clapper, with the existing number of parking spaces, but short of counting them on the existing plan right now, I don't have a count right for you.
Yeah, just the one thing I noticed, it seemed like especially the student lot was considerably smaller than the existing student lot. Would I be correct in saying that?
I believe so.
I think we've increased the parking by about 100 spaces. I'll have to look that up in a minute if you give me a chance, but, or superintendent, if you happen to have that on the top of your head.
But only for the events, not for the day-to-day use of the building, correct?
No, we have about 100 more spaces for day-to-day use.
Okay.
And it's actually more conveniently located than it was in the original plan. Oops, I'm going the wrong way.
Are those 100 additional spaces, sorry, Mr. Clapper, but are those 100 additional spaces inclusive of, is that before or after the possibly cut sideline spaces?
These spaces? Well, you see, we have a lot of new parking back here. Right now, this parking lot ends here. So we have all this new parking for the gym and the natatorium, which right now you can't really park back there. You can park here, but this is all new parking.
So outside of, and maybe this would be a question for the superintendent, outside of sporting events, what would those northern lots be used for? Would that be staff and students back there?
So the northern lot, you're talking by the new gymnasium.
Correct.
Again, we're looking at staff parking there.
Okay.
We could have student parking there. We pretty much have students currently, they park in the small little lot, depending on whether whether they're seniors or sophomores.
Right.
They park in a small little lot close to the football field. And again, that space would still be available as well for students.
Okay.
To answer your question about the current lot, student lot compared to the new, Brad was right. I thought we added 100 more spaces than what we currently have.
Okay.
And that's not including the spaces in the back. And again, we're hoping our teachers would park back there, but again, we could also provide student parking back there, especially for students who might end up, that's where they're going to be when at the end of the day, because they're in athletics.
Right. Okay, that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Clapper. Ms. Edwards, do you have anything?
I just have two questions. Mr. Sarr, for the Architectural Review Committee, I'm assuming that they understood that the south side of the building had toilets and lockers and plumbing. Is that correct? And they still asked for windows?
You are correct. That aspect of the building was discussed, and the fact that the wall was full of plumbing was specifically mentioned, and they still requested windows.
Okay. And then my second question is probably for Ms. Barone or Mr. Fink. In terms of the parking out front, being that it's a front lot, are the options, and when we get to discussion, obviously commissioners will talk about it, but are the options to either get a variance, move forward without the parking, or does the commission have the power to approve the front parking without having to get a variance?
Eric, you can take this one, but the answer would be no, you cannot approve it without the variance. Front yard parking is prohibited in the zoning code, so the variance needs to be secured before planning commission approval. So the plan as approved tonight, I would ask that in the motion, it reflects the updated parking plan that exhibits no parking, new parking lane added to the front yard. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong.
There is nothing to correct in that. It's just making sure when we talk about the front yard parking, we're talking about the parking that fronts on State Route 43.
Correct.
And that parking you can see from that drawing has been deleted from the parking count.
That's
We
correct.
spent a lot of time discussing that as a staff to make sure we're on the same page, and we are.
Ms. Edwards, is that all you had?
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry, I said, is that all you had?
Yeah, I need to think through that, but that's it.
Gotcha, thank you. Mr. Bruder?
I don't have any questions at this time.
All right, thank you. I guess to piggyback off of what Ms. Edwards said, my only question would be, so if this was to be approved tonight and we added in that caveat of the no lane added to the front yard portion, they could then come in and request a variance and bring that section back to us in a couple of weeks if they wanted to, correct, Ms. Susel?
Yes, but it would be more than a couple of weeks because it would need
Take a
to be
little bit more
scheduled
time.
yes, it would need to be scheduled for the variance. If the variance is denied, it would not come back. They would then need to, if it is approved and they go forward with that, they would need to move forward with a new submission. I will note that the addition of new parking in an area where it's prohibited on a new project or an updated project like this is typically not a variance that is supported by the BZA because there really isn't a hardship identified for the provision of this parking.
Okay.
Parents not moving out of a fire lane does not constitute a hardship under the zoning code.
Right. Thank you very
Traffic
much.
violation, yes, but not a zoning
Right.
parking.
Do any of the other commissioners have questions for the applicant or staff before we move on to public testimony?
I have one more question, and it's just so in 116709 of the zoning code, it says that hard surface is required for all parking. I can't remember what case it was. We had somebody apply that wanted to have a gravel lot, and we were requiring a paved lot. That being said, can grass be considered? I know it's just for special events, and I know the circumstances in which they use it, but can a grass lot be considered a parking lot?
Mr. Pink, you might want to jump in on that one.
In effect, this would be the planning commission allowing them to land bank these parking spaces so that we're not creating another concrete sea that is only used, as you pointed out, 8, 10, 12 days out of the year. But you do have the authority to say that no, doing grass parking would be inappropriate for a circumstance like this. But when we review this as if it was being a land bank parking requirement.
Okay.
And I also believe the parking is met even without that area land banked, if I'm correct. Tim and Eric, you can confirm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the number was good without it.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I just had that in my head and wanted to ask about it.
Thank you, Mr. Clapper. I have one last question in regard to that lot, and this might be a question for Mr. Geller or Mr. Dunnigan. Say the weather's been bad when you're about to have one of these events, and those lots, like Mr. Clapper said, they're not hard surfaces, so those lots are wet. They're going to become muddy. What is your alternative for parking people if those spaces are full?
I'll turn that to the superintendent, but as you know, the stadium's been there for like 40 years. And I don't think parking has been, they've managed the parking for the last 40 years. And if anything, the enrollment at the school has gone down over that period of time. So the condition has gotten less severe over the time. And I think with enrollment trends, that's probably going to continue. Superintendent, any other
Sure.
comments?
I think it's a great question because during some really rainy times, we had buses from the teams that were our opponents pull in there and get stuck. So we don't allow parking on that grass area if it's too soggy or if it's muddy. Although sometimes bus drivers like to try it, we do have to end up pulling them out and closing it down. So again, it's weather depending, and we typically close it for rainy, soggy weather.
Thank you. At this time, though I don't see anyone here, if there's anyone here who would like to participate in public testimony, now is your opportunity. So anyone's here for public comment, speak now.
No one submitted a request to be added to speak at tonight's meeting other than those that are currently present.
Thank you, Mrs. So if there are any additional questions by the commissioners for staff or the applicant, now's your final opportunity. We'll move into final applicant comments after that. Hearing none. If the applicant has any final comments before the planning commission moves into final discussion, this would be your opportunity for that.
George Joseph again. I just wanted to again thank the Planning Commission. I am so thrilled to be able to even be here tonight to share this with you because our community was so supportive of the no new tax bond issue that's paying for this renovation. So again, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Kent community for their support of this renovation project.
And if there's any concern about the south elevation, I'd be happy to talk about it some more. If you're not really concerned about it, then I won't say anything more.
All right, we will move into final discussion by the commissioners. Ms. Edwards.
I don't have a whole lot to say. I think the project's great. I think the school needs it. I think that the community needs it. I am very disappointed about the parking in the front. I personally would like to see the parking up in the front. I love the high schools that have it. I think as a younger child, like you see the cars and it's exciting. I think it looks modern. And that's a situation where a variance, I mean, that's why variances were made to allow certain circumstances. I don't, so anyways, I'm disappointed about that. And I think for privacy and for the restrooms and lockers that I'm okay with the south elevation without the windows. I don't see adding those as being appropriate for my child to be in there or for me to be in there or any other people. So I'm good to move forward.
In the middle of the drink of water. Thank you. Mr. Clapper.
I agree with Ms. Edwards that I'm happy with the south elevation of the field house as presented. The photometric plan we got, the updated one, I'm by no means a lighting engineer, but I seem to be pretty happy with that if everybody else is. I don't know, Michael, maybe you want to speak to that a little bit. Other than that, I think the project as presented is good. I do disagree with Ms. Edwards about the parking on that front loop. I would just be worried about how effectively people can put their cars into parallel spaces on the left-hand side and still get buses and fire trucks and all those things through there, should need be. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Clapper. Mr. Bruder.
I, in general, have supported the project too. I don't have anything specific. I think that the improvements to the vehicular safety are long overdue. So I commend the school for that.
Thank you, Mr. Bruder. I would echo the majority of the comments made by my colleagues this evening. I appreciate you all being here to take the time to present, and I think it's a well thought out plan. With that being said, on the second page of your packet, the fourth page of your packet, there are options if you would like to take action. Is there a motion on behalf of one of the commissioners for this project?
I'll make the motion. Before I do, just maybe a question for staff. We've got a submission of an updated photometric plan. So can I eliminate number 2?
Yes, you can do that. And also number 5, documentation to support that the number of parking spaces provided is legally sufficient. You could leave those out. So as long as you just don't state those when you make your motion, then the motion will be complete in itself.
Actually, number 5 might need to stay if they've not provided documentation from Davy yet with regards to the agreement. Did they provide that? I say we just leave it in the motion until we confirm.
Okay.
Because I do believe that that is still under negotiation. Mr. Joseph could confirm, but I actually just spoke to a representative from Davy, and I know that due diligence is being moved forward. So if we could leave that in there till that's formalized, that would be great. And also referencing the updated, most recently submitted plan without the parking in the front on State Route 43 would be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me just make myself a note here. And do I need to mention specifically the south elevation? We're going to take that as presented and not the recommendation of the ARB. So do you want me to specifically mention that?
You do not need to. It would only be, it's going to be as presented. So unless you wanted to add to the motion to include ARB's recommendation on that matter, it's moot. If you do not feel the need to include their recommendation there.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make the motion.
Eric, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If I miss something, somebody can amend it friendly. All right.
Eric's on it.
PC 21-008, the Planning Commission approved the conditional zoning certificate and site plan with the following conditions. 1, technical plan review, including review of the utilities and stormwater system. Excuse me. We'll call this 2, submission of a comprehensive sign plan. 3, consolidation of the parcels. 4, documentation to support that the number of parking spaces provided is legally sufficient. 5, elimination of the parking along North Manaway Street in the front yard.
Been moved by Mr. Clapper. Is there a Mr. Fink? You had your hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Clapper, do you, in part of that motion, you're saying this is using the updated photometric plan and updated parking plan?
Correct. I believe we got those, so I wasn't going to mention them specifically because they're already there. I thought we were eliminating the photometric plan condition.
We're eliminating that as a condition, but we're just to make the record clear that we're using the updated photometric plan.
Okay, so that's why we referenced the updated photometric plan and parking analysis at the beginning of the meeting and ensured that all commissioners had reviewed it for the record.
Thank you.
So are
Thank
we
you.
good as that was stated then? Now we have that clear? Okay.
We should be, yes. It has been moved by Mr. Clapper. Before I ask for a second, I have a question for Mr. Fink. Do we need to reference anything if Mr. Clapper was to say, ignore the recommendation by Architectural Review Board for those windows? Do we need to say anything else? Are we good?
We don't need to say anything else. It's been clearly discussed in the minutes. Nothing else is legally required.
Thank you, Mr. Fink. Mr. Clapper has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Amanda.
Seconded by Ms. Edwards. I will move into discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion?
None here.
Hearing no discussion, we will move on to vote. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Clapper.
Yay.
Ms. Edwards.
Yay.
Mr. Bruder.
Yay.
I will also vote yay. The motion carries 4-0. Next on the agenda, we have PC 21-009, Kent City Schools at 900 Dormore Street. The applicant is requesting a conditional zoning certificate and site plan review and approval to construct a building addition. The subject property is zoned R1 low density residential zoning district. Would staff like to present, please?
Thank you. The property is surrounded on all sides by residential uses. And right now the applicant is proposing to construct 2 new permanent schoolrooms where they currently have 2 modular schoolrooms. And then some playground equipment will be relocated. Public and parochial schools are conditionally permitted in an R1 district per section 112902B and are subject to section 117101, subsections 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 11, which are the exact same subsections that I read for the first case. So I'll go through them quickly. Forgive me if I go quickly and it's hard to understand. All structures and activities areas shall be located at least 100 feet from all property lines. Loudspeakers which cause a hazard or annoyance shall not be permitted. All points of vehicular entrance to exits shall be located no closer than 200 feet from the intersection of two major thoroughfares, or no closer than 100 feet from the intersection of a major thoroughfare and a local or collector thoroughfare. No lighting shall constitute a nuisance or in any way impair safe movement of the traffic and on any state or highway. No lighting shall shine directly on an adjacent property. Elementary school structures shall be located on a collector thoroughfare. Such uses shall be properly landscaped to be harmonious with surrounding residential uses. As in the prior case, the school already has a conditional zoning certificate for this use at this location. There are no changes to traffic, parking, no changes to utilities, no changes to the stormwater, no changes in signage, no changes to lighting, landscaping, or dumpster locations. The Architectural Review Board did review this on May the 4th and made a recommendation to accept the design as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Would the applicant like to present, please?
Brad, I'll start. This is George Joseph again. Once again, Mr. Starr did mention that the purpose of this is to remove a double wide portable that we currently have in the back of the school and use this facility pretty much attached to the building and because we need the space. I wanted to also make sure you were aware that we have another portable unit that will remain because we don't have the money to put 4 classrooms at this point. So it's only one of the double wide modular units that will be leaving. The other one will have to stay until we have the finances to possibly remove that and add another 2 classrooms.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on behalf of the applicant?
Oh, would you like me to share any drawings, or is that enough?
That's up to you.
Is that your pleasure?
If you want to throw the drawings up on the screen really quickly, just so we have them for the stream, that would be great.
Let me know when you can see the project.
They're on the screen now.
Okay, Mr. Joseph, just let me find where my cursor is. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it from. Okay, here we go. So this is where the new addition is going. It's already a paved area. This is the modular that is being removed. Isn't that correct, Mr. Joseph? This one is actually leased, so that will save the district money and they own this modular. So this will be an ongoing operational savings for the district.
Brad, I'm sorry, I couldn't get my microphone on. Yes, that is the correct one that's on that you were just pointing to.
So here is the classroom addition. This is an egress from, the corridor within the school comes here. So you'll have an egress on either side and then an egress this way, and then connection to the playgrounds on either side. It's a modest addition to go with the scale of the rest of the building. And it is more than 100 feet from the residential property lines. So this is where the addition is going, right here. And then looking from the northeast here, and then that's kind of a view out. It's going to come out to here to this sort of existing playground area. And when they're building, they'll probably have to move this to allow their construction operations to continue. So here's the new building. It has a little higher parapet because It has to be fire separated from the existing building. And then that shows you existing, we have a brick that matches the existing brick. So essentially be a continuation of the architecture of the building. That's the exits on either side. So that's the plan. So any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Geller. We'll actually move into questions right now. If any commissioners have questions for staff or the applicant, now is your opportunity to ask.
Nothing for me.
My only question is if you're going to redraw that map on the playground somewhere else so the kids still have it, but the plan looks good to me.
I think I saw a note about that, Chris, on on one of the drawings about reusing making stencils and building it somewhere else. I think I saw that.
Yes, it does say to relocate it.
Good. That's my only concern at this point.
You're volunteering to help, right?
Sorry?
You're volunteering to help, right?
You don't want me to draw. I can't draw straight lines to save my life. I will volunteer to supervise, but drawing will not be a good plan. If there are no other questions of the applicant or staff by commissioners, we will ask for public testimony. I understand that no one signed up, but I'm going to ask anyway, just in case someone has magically popped on.
No, join the meeting to speak on this case either.
Thank you, Ms. Dussel. Hearing none, if there are any follow-up questions by commissioners or staff or the applicant, now's your opportunity. So if the applicant has any final comments at this time, you're welcome to do those. Otherwise, we'll move into discussion by commissioners.
I don't see any from the superintendent.
All right, hearing none, we're in discussion, so feel free to jump in. I think the plan looks great. I'm excited to see that modular go. Up until very recently, I lived in this neighborhood and I hate that modular. I'm also excited to see the safety improvements that the district is doing in that space. I think overall it'll be a better experience for the students to attend.
I would echo the same thing, Chris, which is I think it's a needed project and it's well done. It's in compliance, so I would support it for sure.
Yeah, we've had this property before approving the modular units, and this is definitely an upgrade. And I'm happy with everything on the site plan.
I agree. It's a big step in the right direction.
That is the end of discussion. Do we have a motion for 21-209?
Chair, I'll make a motion. I move that in case PC 21-009, the Planning Commission approved the conditional zoning certificate and site plan with the following conditions. 1, technical plan review.
Moved by Ms. Edwards. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Bruder. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will go ahead and do roll call again. Ms. Edwards?
Yay.
Mr. Clapper?
Yay.
Mr. Bruder?
Yay.
I will vote yay as well. The motion carries 4-0. So congratulations, Kent City Schools. You've got through both your pieces this evening, and we look forward to seeing the result. In case PC 21-012, City of Kent Administration Building, that has been postponed, correct, Mr. Starr?
That is correct.
Okay, and I understand that we have no minutes to approve. So, Ms. Sussel, I believe you added the zoning code update to the agenda under other business.
Yeah, just real quick, the zoning code update was presented to council. It went over fairly well. There were 2 items that I will be going back to council in June to discuss. Number 1 is expansion of the solar power. As you know, we did add solar, wind, and energy into the zoning code for the first time. And there will be some expansion on that to allow for a certain type of unit. And another matter that came up was the discussion of public art and exterior paint of buildings, whether those reviews, which are currently under the purview of the Architectural Review Board, should be exempted from Architectural Review Board certificate of appropriateness authority and handled separately and not needing to go. So the Assistant Law Director, Eric, and I have crafted some draft language that would exempt those two items from Architectural Review Board authority, and we'll be presenting those to council in June. So we will let you know on that. And depending on how those two situations are resolved, which I anticipate will be resolved in June, we should have the new code formalized and in place by the end of June and ready for you to work with in July. So we're getting there.
It's really exciting. Just for my peace of mind, Devil Strip is still in fact in the zoning code. They're right. We haven't made any changes since our last.
It is. Nobody removed that.
Okay.
Actually, I think after my 4 or 5 page memo, which was a summary, by the way, of the whole 220 pages, they were done after like item 2, but that's okay. We didn't get into those details, so.
So we're leading in a comment about concerns about ghosts that apparently zombies.
Zombies.
That make
We
the
did
final
remove
approval.
that. Yeah, we did remove that, so.
As of now, is there anything on the case for June 1st?
I believe, yes, it's the new administration buildings, right, Tim?
The June 1st, there's two items. One is a rooming house, and the second one is a new training lot for Davy, which is on Franklin, way down at the south end of Franklin. The admin building looks like we might ask you guys to do a special
That's right.
session on the 22nd, because they're going before the BZA on the 21st. And so if we can get you guys to sit on the 22nd, we might be able to hopefully save a month on that process.
Because you would be scheduled on the 15th, which is a week before, and they need to have the variances in place before they can come through the planning commission. So we'll be talking about that next week, and Tim will send out an email. Does anybody right now have a problem if we were to move the meeting from the third Wednesday of the 15th to the 22nd?
For June?
Yes, for June.
I don't believe I do.
I should be, okay.
We'll get that out to you as soon as we're sure about that, but we're pretty sure that's what we're gonna do, right, Eric?
That's what we're shooting for.
Okay, we'll have Tim send that out this week, so. And everybody can confirm, because Nick's not here, he might have an issue, but if the 4 of you can, that'd be great.
If there is nothing else on the agenda, someone would make a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
moved.
move.
Moved Mr. Bruder, seconded by Mr. Clapper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions. We are adjourned at 7:55 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.